Everyone, this is E. Miller. Welcome back to another episode of Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for, watching Sierra Nova Comics Virtual Con yesterday. I had a lot of fun with those guys. It's always a blast. And I can't wait for you guys to see what's going to be in store for Codium Hunter as soon as issue 4 is done. Then I also want to thank you guys for watching the last episode, which premiered 2 weeks ago, with Matt Wagner and Kelly Jones promoting their Kickstarter, Dracula Volume 1, The Impaler. Yeah, they got funded fully, so congratulations, guys. Can't wait for Volume 2. Okay, on to our guest. Great guy. Met him last year, well, actually 2 years ago, if I'm being honest. We're working on another project, and love this guy. He's got a new Kickstarter out. Really exciting. Please give a warm welcome to Daniel Garcia.
What's up, man? How are you? How you been? Thanks for having me on once again.
Welcome back, man. Thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you. And I heard you saying that you had Matt Wagner on your podcast not so long ago. Big fan of Matt Wagner's. That's awesome. Yeah, it's great.
I've been a fan of both Matt's and Kelly Jones for a while, so I just messaged them. I said I would love to have you on the show to talk about your project, and they were doing their own version of Dracula. I was like, okay, I really have to have them on the show, and it was a lot of fun. And this was Volume 1 that we had just completed. They've got 3 other volumes coming out, so hopefully I'm going to have them back on. I'm going to try to get them back on, but yeah, I'm very excited for them.
That's very cool. Yeah, I was just, it's so great when you meet other like amazing artists and amazing writers, and you get to talk to people who you grew up like reading their comics. And and I need to give a shout out to my buddy Michael, who's got a Kickstarter right now, Wild Oni, and he's been fully funded, which is tough nowadays, Ian. Which is like it's a saturated market, and I'm sure you know that.
Oh yeah, it is a tough situation getting completely funded, because I've been a part of at least 2 successful Kickstarters. I've seen people back out, pull some of the funding,
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, then we gotta start all over. So I understand.
Yep. And it's I think as I was going, I was just talking backstage, so to speak, a little while ago. You and me were talking, and like today's my day off, just because I worked 6 days last week, but today I spent a big part of the morning putting out stuff and paying people and getting stuff printed from Xyber Ronin still, and it's just never ending. So it's a challenging market right now. It's fun, right? Because it's still like it's a passion of mine, and I could have other hobbies, but I guess I'm a glutton for punishment. I love comics.
Look, believe me, as someone that does this, for a living, even though I do mostly work myself, and I do have a inker, but I understand. So believe me, I get it. Yeah. So let's talk about your new project.
Awesome. Yeah. And once again, thanks for. I know the minute that I said, "Oh, I'm coming out on this date," you were so gracious. You're like, "Oh, we need to get you on the show again." So thanks. You and Eric have always been great with me, so I appreciate you guys.
Well, of course, because again, we want to make sure that you succeed. And that's the thing. When I have people come on the show, talk about and promote the Kickstarters, I want to make sure they succeed.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Appreciate that. And I know you had some stuff that you were promoting of your own.
Yeah.
There was some really cool shirts that you were promoting on your own on social media.
That's right.
And again, it's challenging. So we try to promote each other and help each other out however we can. So this Kickstarter, we're almost funded. We're at 62 or 65% right now. We're at $1,720 of $2,500, and I'll tell you that's not even. And I made it. That's kind of low. I funded it kind of low. The goal I set it kind of low, which doesn't sound low, but it is because there's actually a lot more that I'm going to put in my own money to get the stuff colored. And yep, there it is. Thanks for showing it. That cover right there is by a buddy of mine, Greg Bow. There's his initials right there, Greg Bow and Gwen on Facebook. If you guys can look them up on either Facebook or Instagram. And they're just amazing people, man. Everyone that I've worked on this book with so far has been just great personalities, willing to work with you, and just a bunch of great folks. And someone actually came on to my Facebook, to my Kickstarter page and said, you should lead with this because this is probably the best piece that you have on your page. And Greg Bo's got and so did Gwen. They both have a huge following of people that love their stuff. So I was like, all right, you got it. I'll put it on there. And that was it was funny. Like the same day I put that up there, I got like 3 backers.
There you go.
Yeah, so it was really interesting how that happened. But we have, and here's another thing before I get into this next part. Someone had messaged me a couple of days ago, and they're like, "Hey, are you willing to work with me on if I'm able to back? Or were you able to work with me on certain things that they were asking?" I'm like, "Absolutely." Yeah. And it was reasonable. Let's just put it that way. It was a reasonable request. I think I launched probably at not the best time of the year. And I was talking to someone about this a couple of weeks back. They're like, you're launching during the holiday season, and it's probably not the best time. People, I think, are a little tighter on money than usual. And some of the tiers are kind of expensive. I'll be the first to admit it. However, I'm trying to get the reader the biggest bang for their buck. And Ian, I think what kills it a lot also is just the shipping is ridiculously expensive. I just shipped some stuff last week just to Georgia, to Kevin from the Zone Collectibles. Yeah. It was like $20 for a box to ship him a bunch of comics. And I jammed those comics in there. I was like, oh my God, I hope this box gets there safely. But the shipping kills you, so that's one of the biggest things for me is the shipping.
No, you're absolutely right, and yeah, it is definitely a huge factor, especially in terms of costs. I definitely shipped things out to other comic book stores, and I've always had to spend a little bit more than I should have, just to make sure they get there safe.
Yep.
And yeah, it's a pain in the ass, believe me, I understand, but still, it's totally worth it in the end.
It is. I like when someone gets their stuff and then they write me and they go, "Hey, the production of this was great." And, we have some great artists on here. I even got Alan freaking Goldman. If you scroll down to the very bottom, like that's that guy, that's Gene Sinclair. Yeah. That's Roberto Jaramillo. Fox did some of the colors. That's Thiago. He's just an amazing line artist. And I'm going to have him do some more of the stuff for me here real soon. That's Thiago. That's my buddy Zilson, who's doing Laser Wolf there at the bottom. Zilson Costa, who's just an amazing person as well. These guys are all great. He's great, man. That's my vigilante book, which I've been dying to do a vigilante book. Other than Xyber Ronin, I've been trying to get that knocked out. There he is. That's Alan Goldman. So
no way. Wow. Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know who Alan Goldman is a JLA artist back in the 90s who was like he was when stuff was all extreme in like the 90s and like the early 2000s. He did Justice League of America. I think there's one more piece of his if you want to scroll on a little more. Ian.
Let me see here.
Okay, no, I didn't put it up there, but I'll have to put that piece up there. He did a great piece for me that we colored, and I should throw it on here. Yeah. I got him to do 2 covers for me, which came out amazing. And I'll probably do some cover swaps at some point. If anybody wants them, I'm always, we're able to do that for you guys also. But the talent is ridiculous. Like the people that we have on these books are just sick. The colorists are great. This has been a long time coming, this project. So that's why we're really excited about getting into people's hands.
Yeah, I remember you talking to me about this project a couple of times in the past year. I was like, "Oh, definitely, you should do this. This sounds sick."
I know you and I have talked about it, man, and
I know
you and I have discussed some of these books in the past. Yeah, and I'm proud of it. It's just like I said, it's a tough market right now. You know, I think that people are probably leaning more towards Kickstarter comics than they are going to a comic store and picking up stuff off the shelf.
You know what? I've actually, yeah, because I had this that type of conversation. I think it was yesterday on the Xyber Comics Virtual Con, where I said, you know, people are looking more towards indie comics, and the big companies should actually really consider hiring indie artists and writers to kind of, you know, not sort of rework what they're doing right now, but sort of not really fix it, but just sort of gear it towards the right direction, because it's starting to go down a hill a little. So it's not surprising that people are now geared more towards indie comics, because they want to see some original stories. You know, maybe some of the concepts are not original, but the talent, you know, the writing, they want more engaging, you know, not overtread or, you know, overused characters.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. And I think it's also, you know, when you want to engage with an artist or with a writer more of a certain title, like you were talking to Matt Wagner not too long ago.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to engage more with the creator, I should say, and sometimes in some cases the artist, this is one way of doing that, because anybody can email me and just be like, hey, Daniel, you know, someone sent me a script a couple of days ago and they're like, hey, can you look the script over for me? And I was like, oh, I don't mind. You know, I'll take my time and do that. I don't mind looking at your script. But you can engage with the creators a lot more than you can with, let's say, someone who does a DC book now or a Marvel book or something. It's a lot more challenging to get a hold of one of them. I will tell you that my one venting on Kickstarter, and I'm going to probably end up emailing somebody from Kickstarter support, the amount of spam that I get on a weekly basis for people that want to help you get your book endorsed, or, you know, to get it out there and get it reviewed is ridiculous. It's just, I get spam emails a lot, messages. So,
well, this is actually a good learning lesson for me, because I'm hoping to do a Kickstarter at some point, maybe next year or so, after I finish my first story arc. So it's actually good I'm learning this now.
Yeah. I get, you know, and then I was talking to someone to kind of talk through this a little more. I was talking to someone yesterday, as a matter of fact, on Facebook Messenger, and they were telling me how, I won't name any names, but there was a certain company that has helped a lot of folks get their stuff kickstarted.
Yeah.
And in some cases, they've charged them an astronomical amount of money to advertise for them, and the books didn't do as well as this company promised they would do. So for anybody that's out there that wants to start a Kickstarter, be weary of, I'm not saying there aren't good people out there that will help you. It's just hard to find those people that are honest and will really help you for a good dollar amount. And it's nothing that you can't do on your own, Ian, because honestly, the social media platforms are limited. So unless you can get on a podcast, and kind of folks like you who are great to have people like me on, it's challenging, because what other mediums can you advertise on?
You know, what's interesting is before, you know, before social media, before all that, you know, I was talking about this yesterday, when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had started, you know, what they would do is, especially for the first issue, they sell the book through mail orders.
Yep.
And of course, the game has obviously changed, and it's continuing to change. And yeah, but what's more inspiring now is more and more people are wanting to talk to the creators on podcasts, you know, like this, and be able to promote more. And with the help of social media, yeah, it is limited, but you can spread the word out there more. But with a podcast, you can spread it out even further.
Yeah. And you know, and even podcasts there are a lot of them out there. and it's great, right? So to each his own, that's great. It's fantastic. If you can get on YouTube or you can get on somewhere and do your thing, that's great. There are a lot of podcasts out there. So just like there's a lot of Kickstarters, there's a lot of comics out there now compared to the 90s or early 90s, when you're right, like to get your stuff out there was like, I made my own ash can. I'd go to a comic store. I'd pitch it that way for a couple of years and see what would entice people to say, oh yeah, this sounds good. And let me subscribe to it or let me back this project.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with like Xyber Ronin #2. Okay. So do I have the second issue plotted out? Yes. Is it something that I want to back myself right now, considering that the first one, I put in a lot of the money myself to get it published? So is that something that I want to do #2 with? Is it maybe, I'd love to, but people have to understand that at the end of the day, someone like me, that's just, I got a job and, which consumes most of my time. But I got to pay bills too. So do I want to pay my bills or do I want to make comics? So,
well, yeah, exactly.
You got to understand that. So like, how would #2 fare? I don't know. I'm not sure how it would fare. I'm not sure how it would do in this landscape right now at this time. So in my mind, I want to keep putting books out until I hit something where someone goes, okay, this is it. I like this, and then maybe get lucky. And then, of course, #2s are important also because you don't want to just drop a book and then just keep going. But
yeah,
you got to find your niche, and then maybe make it work from there.
Yeah, that is the hard truth of the reality of this business, folks. I remember I was, at School of Visual Arts. There was an instructor there, Klaus Jensen, very respected inker. Did a ton of Batman and Daredevil books. And he said that if you really want to get into the comic business, don't. There are a lot of heartbreaks.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that will put you down. And yeah, he did have a point. He did have a point because it is a hard business. But at that point, when I was in college, and this was back in 2012, Kickstarter and indie comics were not where they are now.
Yeah, correct.
They weren't. That was just sort of, that predated that whole thing. So, but he is right. He is right. It is a hard industry, and it does take a lot of your time, especially if you're not doing it on a daily basis, because you really have to figure out, okay, what are my priorities? I can still do this as a hobby, yes, but but you still have to believe, saying, okay, at one point, I think this one's going to take off. This is the one I really want to commit to. So do not lose the faith, folks. Especially if you're a comic book creator, don't lose the faith.
Yeah, I think that's that's I think my most important message. If I were to give a message to anybody right now making comics, it would be, if it's something you love and you can afford to do it, then just keep going and eventually, hopefully something will pan out for you, and you'll find your niche. So in your opinion, like, what do you think makes a successful Kickstarter or a successful story? Like, I have my interpretations of that, but what, in your mind, like, what do you think? I mean, superheroes, I think, are big, right? So, but in certain mediums, because I think that not every superhero book does well. So is it the art? Is it the writing? Is it the inking? Is it the coloring? Like, what is it in your mind that you think makes books do well?
There are different aspects of this conversation that are interesting. What I personally feel is worth selling and worth buying is definitely the artwork, but also the writing. If you just take a look at a couple of pages of a comic, even if you're a comic book store, and just read some of the dialogue, the way it sets the tone and the mood of the book, you're like, okay, this is something I definitely want to pick up, because this actually speaks to me. It's not just the artwork, it's definitely the language that they're using here, because that is something I can relate to. And that's it. you're making stories that could relate to the modern audience.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. I think that it's more difficult though on like you're showing my Kickstarter page there.
Yeah.
I think you have one shot at engaging the audience by one little blurb of the art.
Yeah.
So I think if the art isn't good on your premiere, and I probably could have put up a lot more pages on here than what I did, and I probably should have.
Yeah.
But if you can't entice the backer with just a few pages up front, then I think you've lost. So that's my opinion. I mean, because you really like, there's some of my dialogue, and I had Fox from Fox Footcrafts help me with the letters and the lettering, and she's new to this, but she's done a fantastic job of helping me out. But if you can't entice someone with the art and have something appealing to people, I think you've lost your potential backer.
Yeah.
So it's challenging.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to know the audience. You know, you have to see, okay, what sells, what doesn't sell. That's why I actually look at other people's books, even the big two, to say, okay, what's selling? What does the cover look like? You know, what does the interiors look like? So I'll say, okay, this type of book is selling because of this thing. This one is geared more towards the writing. Okay, so how do I mesh the two? You know, so that's the thing. And what was very successful in the 70s and the 80s was, especially with covers, they had to deal with the main plot of the book. You know, you can have the first premiere and all that, you know, be wherever it is, but as long as you're following issues, especially the covers, all to do with the main plot, then you're gonna have a bestseller, because that worked with the Superman in the 80s and 90s, particularly the 90s, because they had 4 titles running at that point, especially with Superman 75, where he dies. So
that's right.
It's very important, you know, that you could do that. You know, have your issues covers really be part of the storytelling, especially part of the story that's being told in the books.
And I love those 80s and 70s, even some, like you said, even some of the 90s covers.
Yeah.
Particularly the ones in the 80s and the 70s. But man, it was nothing like picking up a book and looking at the cover, and it was like descriptive as to what was happening in the book. You know, like a lot of the Gil Kane Spider-Mans would have like Spider-Man on the cover, and or like some of the Secret War stuff, you know, where like the Hulk is lifting up that mountain, and you know, and like the narrative on it was like, you know, the Hulk is lifting up this mountain or something. And when you thumb through the book, you're looking for that page because you're hoping to read what that said, you know, in that it's telling you a story. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think there's one answer. I think that, as I mentioned before at the start of the podcast, I think the market is saturated. I think there's a lot of Kickstarters out there. There's a lot of people that have realized that crowdfunding is the way to go. There are obviously other crowdfunding platforms, such as what's it called?
I think it's what was it, Indigo?
Indiegogo. Yeah, Indiegogo, and then Fund My Comics is another one. I don't know if those have caught on as much as a Kickstarter has. I think Kickstarter is the platform to go to.
Yeah.
And you know, Kickstarter connects to KickTrack. I'm not sure if you okay, you knew that. Yeah. So, and KickTrack is a really neat way of not only having an additional way of broadcasting to people that you're advertising on there as well, but it links right to your Kickstarter, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it kind of tells you where you're at in terms of like success or not at the time. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What's also interesting is, and not many people do this anymore, they're taking risks on page layouts. You see how the layout is for this here, folks? See this? You don't really see this type of storytelling anymore because it's very traditional now. They're really going back to somewhat of a basic type of thing that they did, you know, I would say when comics really started. Of course, a lot of the images are bigger now, but you don't really turn the panel like that, you know?
Yeah.
Because that really just says your focus is right there.
That's Zilson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's my buddy.
Yeah.
That's my buddy Zilson Costa, man. That guy's amazing. And he drew he's done like the first 20 something pages of Laser Wolf. And he's just the guy's a machine, man. You guys should check him out on if you could check him out on Facebook, Zilson Costa. He's a Brazilian artist. And when him and I have been trying to work together for quite some time, and now we talk probably every day about like upcoming stuff that I want him to do for me. And he's absolutely affordable. He's a great guy, which goes a long way for me. I was having this conversation with another creator a couple of days ago that Ian, for me, a personable person that I can engage with and have a refreshing dialogue or a friendly dialogue goes a long way. If you're not approachable and you're not like you're difficult to speak with, then I don't care how big you are. I don't want to work with you. So that's just that's me, man. You know, I don't want to work with someone that just has a lousy attitude. So,
well, this is another thing. You know, I've also been fortunate enough to work with people that I get along with, and we're pretty much on the same page. You know. Yeah. This is also a link to where you can find Atomik.
Thank you, Ian. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, and I love working with people that I can get along with, and I've been fortunate with that so far. I've worked with Eric Hernandez. I'm still working with him. Enrique Lopez. Love working with these guys. Eric Elliott. He's another writer I did with a fan comic with. Paul Brian McCoy. I could go on, you know, with the list. I can go on the list of people, and of course you, Daniel. I've gotten along with you because, you know, I like working with you.
Yeah, same here. Yep.
So it helps. It helps.
It does. It absolutely helps, man. And I'm not going to say that that's happened to me often, but and I know everyone has stuff in their life going on. So I know I certainly have days where I'm like, I don't want to even walk outside my door. So, but I think that when you're able to have that personality where I'm giving someone my money, my hard-earned money, to do something for me, I appreciate a better personality or a better like take Alan Goldman, for example, where I reach out to this guy and I'm like, hey man, how are you coming along with, and he's doing some other pages for me on something else I'm working on with him. And they're coming out beautifully, by the way. And he's always just, it's great. And he's like just very personable. And he's like, hey, and I said to him, I go, Alan, are you interested in working with me next year? I go, can you crank out some more pages for me in 2024? He's like, we'll see. And he's got a million things going on also, you know, but I just think it helps. It helps everybody, you know, just get along better and just for the good of everybody, because, you know, you're making money off me essentially, and you're helping me in the process.
Exactly. So let's just share the screen one more time to show them where they can find it. Yeah, like I said, Kickstarter, and
thanks, man. And I'm gonna put up. Thank you, and I'm gonna put up probably some more, like another page. I just, as you're showing me the Kickstarter now, I'm so absent-minded, Ian, that like sometimes I'll forget. I'm so crazy all week that when I come to sit down to do this stuff, my brain is so melted from my day that when I sit down to do these things on my Kickstarter or on social media, I'll forget names, I'll forget people, and then I go back and I'm like, oh my god, I forgot to mention this guy's name in on the social media post. And it's just, I think my brain gets so mushy during the week from stuff that like I just forget, man, and I'm like, oh, I should have done that, and I forget.
I understand. Believe me. There's a lot going on in this head. I get it. Because I'm like, okay, I have to do this project. I have to do this. I have to do this. I get it.
Yes, I agree. So to give you guys an idea of the book itself, it's about a female, it's a female mutant that her father kind of takes advantage of the fact that she's super powered, and he exposes her to this vampire lord, which ends up something happens to her, and I allude to it a little bit in the first issue. I don't really get into it too much, but he ends up biting her and transforming her into a vampire. And then in that process, the dad tries to save her. He has like a change of heart, so to speak. And you get a glimpse of this in the book where she wakes up from being operated on. And I put up the page on my Facebook page. My Facebook, I just posted it today. It was a quick glimpse into it. And she kind of wakes up, and Roberto does a great job of like showing the emotion from her coming out of her state of she was asleep basically under anesthetics.
Wow.
And she wakes up and she's like, "Oh, what the hell just happened?" When she comes to, she's got some cybernetics attached to her already. So that's like a flashback scene in the book. And then she's used as a weapon in the story. In the second issue, you get more of a glimpse into when she was used as a weapon. She escapes the clutches of her dad and then kind of goes on her own to dismantle his organization. So that's the Atomik Vamp storyline. And then I'm going to get into the Laser Wolf storyline, which will show him as a vigilante in the first 10 pages of the book. Show him beating up some bad guys, which I love showing bad guys getting beaten up. I think it's always fun. And then you get a glimpse of his powers a little bit. And then you end up finding out like what he does for a living in the city that he's living in. And then you go back to bad guy stuff again. And it's a lot of fun.
That sounds fantastic. I'm definitely loving the vibe. It's definitely, really in your face type of storytelling, which is spectacular. You don't really see that much these days. And it really does have an X-Men vibe. It kind of meets X-Men with vampires. So I love it. I just love it.
Yeah. Yep. I'm a big fan of the Chris Claremont run in the 80s and like the 70s
of course.
X-Men. So
of course.
And then of course the Jim Lee run to me was like some of the best. And the Mark Silvestri stuff to me, the X-Men. Any one of those, Silvestri as an artist or Lee as an artist, and then Byrne as an artist were some of my favorite X-Men books. So I'm a big fan of that genre, and then I love vampires. So how could you not love an atomic vampire that's running around killing bad guys?
Yeah, it sounds spectacular. I mean, come on. I mean, it's got everything you wanted. It's got, action. It's got drama. It's got vampires, Oh, God. I can't watch a vampire movie right
I
now.
think at some point, Ian, you... Oh, man, I'll tell you, I sat and watched tons of vampire movies. As I was creating this, I was like trying to get into the mood of vampire stuff, and I watched Underworld probably 20 times, just to get myself in the mood,
I love that
to write
movie.
vampire stuff. Those movies are great. Even the bad ones are great still. Those are still great films.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I'm still dying for the day that you and I can work on something together. I know I've been promising you that for like a year. I know, man. I know. We just got to make it click. And I got so many ideas for 2024. One of the things I was planning for 2024 was I'm trying to find someone to partner with, and Michael from Wild Onis seems like a great guy. I don't know if you've ever spoken to him before.
No.
You should reach out to that guy. He's a real great dude. Super smart as a whip. You guys would get along real well because you're like a smart dude too. But my plan for next year is that I'd like to hook up with some other creators and try to make something in comics where we can work together and not compete against each other on Kickstarters, because that's a pain in the neck when you're competing against one another.
Yeah. It would be healthy competition.
I'd love to work with you.
Yeah,
I would love it. I mean, when we promote each other's stuff, it's helpful. But more than ever now, competing against one of your partners, it's a pain, you know, and I get it. So,
yeah. Well, if you can put me on one of those projects next year, just put me on it, because I definitely would love to work with you on something. I know we've been talking about it for a while, but let's actually do it.
me too,
Yeah.
brother. I know.
Yeah. Well, this is.
But trust me, man. I think 2024 is going to have some good stuff for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate it, dude. Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, nothing but love here, man. Nothing but love here. Yeah, so definitely check out Atomik Vamp now on Kickstarter. It's got 39 days to go now. I'm sorry, 21 days to go. Yeah, 21.
Yeah, 39
21.
backers. Yeah, 39 backers, which is pretty, that's not bad. So
yeah, I do have a question though. Before we get on to the next thing, would you say your previous Kickstarter, that was pretty much your first one, right? Well, would you say that's fair?
Has it done better than my first one?
Well, have you learned your lessons from the first one?
Oh my God, yes. Please. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that was like the first one. I made some tiers that another lesson to be learned here, Ian, is that when you're pricing out your tiers, it's important to understand that, as I mentioned before, the cost of shipping it's high, but you know, you have to take into consideration the fact that someone that's backing you is essentially paying for shipping as much as they pay for almost the tier itself, which is, I can't control that. Someone was telling me, why don't I just have my stuff shipped through the printer itself? And I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea, but don't I have to get a hold of the books also, so that I can put in the posters, I can put in the tarot cards, I can put in the you know, all that other fun stuff, and then ship it off.
Yeah.
So that there's like triple shipping that happens in that process. Not just that, but also there are a couple different printers, and I won't mention which ones they are, but there's a couple different printers that the minimum print range is 25 books. So if you're not printing 25 books at one certain printer, they don't allow you to print to them. And I understand, it's fine, because I know printing costs are expensive.
Yeah.
Then there are other printers that allow you to print a minimum print range, and then they ship you the books. So you got to play with that part of it also. So there's a lot that goes into the pricing part. So in Xyber Ronin, it took me some time to ship out the stuff, because I literally had to put in a lot of the money myself. Plus, I did some appearances, and I used some of the Kickstarter money for the appearances, and I didn't take it into consideration. So there's a lot that goes into it for those of you that are wanting to do this. So I've learned my lessons, and this time around, I'm more on point with the tiers and the money that's coming from the backers.
Yeah. See, folks, that's
long-winded answer. I know, but there's my answer.
And it's honest. It's honest, because this is the truth. You know, if you make some mistakes, especially in your first Kickstarter or even your first comic, just learn those lessons and make sure and apply them. Say, okay, this is what I should not do going forward. You know, because you never stop learning as you're getting older. You know, life is constantly a learning curve.
Yeah, agreed. And especially when you're dealing with people's money, it's understandable when someone says, hey, my book hasn't arrived. And there was one guy, I'm going to give my buddy George Valdez a shout out on Facebook. Great guy. And I got him, I sent him his book out, and he changed his address. So it came back to me. And then I emailed him, and I messaged him. I go, hey, buddy, your stuff came back. He's like, oh my God, I forgot to send you my address, my new address. He sent me his new address, so I had to go back and ship it out again. And he was so patient, extremely patient guy. Everyone's been patient and fantastic.
Yeah.
But I'm like, hey, I sent your books again. I hope you get them this time.
At first, you don't succeed.
So yeah, a lot of lessons learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. You just learn. You learn from your mistakes, and you move forward. So yeah.
That's all you can do. That's really all you can do, especially when you're dealing with stuff like this. And you've definitely come out of this, more with more wisdom,
Agreed.
And you seem to be doing much better in this Kickstarter, which is fantastic. Because, like I said, I want you all to succeed.
Yeah, man. Thank you. And this one it's been painstakingly long. Where I would like to have seen it funded. Anybody wants to see their stuff funded up front, fast, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's taken some time. And something else for your folks that are watching this, that it's very meticulous. It's very time consuming, where every morning I wake up, I look to see where I'm at with my funding. And like you said, there are people that will back out at the last moment or during the process. And you're like, oh no. And you have to get on social media, on all those social media platforms, and push your stuff and hope that you don't piss someone off by going, oh God, is this guy again? Is he really sending me more stuff to look at his book? So, it could be challenging.
Yeah, but it's definitely necessary to do, especially if you had backers pull out. You definitely have to keep promoting and, even up the advertising a bit, because you definitely want other people to get more interested and, not wonder, was like, well, why are they backing out? What's going on with this? You don't want them to notice that. You just want to notice, the product, and they say, okay, I'm going to buy this. I might not buy the rewards, but I'm going to buy this. So that's all.
Yeah, I mean, everyone loves a winner, right? So when you're winning, everyone's like, "Oh, this guy's doing great," and you're winning, and everyone loves that. And then there's sometimes people that maybe they're not doing so great, and then you have folks that may say, "Oh, well, that stuff it's not for me because it doesn't do well, or it's not for me because it hasn't been successful." So you got to be careful with that. Also, you want to make everyone, like I said, everyone loves it when you're winning, and then when you're not, the folks that stick by you are your real fans or your real friends. So. It's challenging. It's challenging.
It is, but like I said, it's totally worth it when everything comes to fruition.
Nothing better than holding your own comic in your hand that you spent so much time and money on.
I know.
And you're like, oh, cool. Look at this. Yeah,
It's the greatest thrill that you could ever have, especially when you're in this industry. Holding your own physical copy of your book that you worked on for maybe 5 or 6 years, depends on, what you were doing, and holding it, and is the greatest thrill. What's even better, though, is seeing someone else reading it and saying, wow.
Yep, I agree, man. I'll always turn to this story, and I may have talked to you about this before in the past. I went to Tifton, Georgia to visit my buddy Kevin Clady and my buddy Hassel. I sold no books that day, and I flew out to Tifton, Georgia. I took my girl with me. We spent thousands of dollars to fly over there and to get hotels and cars and food. I sold one book, man. And the little girl that came up and grabbed my book and bought it for me, that was ingrained in my brain forever. I was like, she was so happy to pick up the book, and I was so happy to sell it to her. And I was like, okay, this is why I do it. It was really neat.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, it happens. It happens. But again, like I said, learning curve.
Yeah. It's all good, man.
Yeah. Anyway, like I said, Atomik Vamp is now in Kickstarter for 21 days. 28 days left. So please check it out on the link below and buy a copy. That's all I have to do.
Thanks, Ian.
Of course. Before we go, I just want to announce to everyone, I do have another character that I created. It's called Lillian. It's geared more towards kids, folks. This is the link to where you can find it. But also, I want to show you the storefront, which is actually on tpublic.com. So let me just pull the link up right now.
Yep. Congrats on that, by the way. Hope it does well.
Thank you.
For you, man.
Yeah. So this is little Ian. I have 4 different designs right now. This one right here in particular is selling out more than
that's my favorite one. Yeah.
Yeah. That seems to be everyone's favorite one. Yeah. When Shark Blu-ray covers it.
I got to get one for my girl for Christmas.
Yeah. Well, it's actually on sale now, so you can do it.
I love it. My girl's a big, she's a Jaws fan, so that one would be a perfect Christmas present, man. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, this was based on, when Jaws came out on DVD, the 25th anniversary, it had that reflective cover on. This scared the bejesus out of me. Every time I walked past it in the hallway, it's like, oh God. Yeah,
I love that. So I love that one right there. Yeah,
yeah. And of course, they have the fishing one right here, which is another favorite. Try fishing, they said. Relax you, they said. I look relaxed. He doesn't. I don't look relaxed here. Yeah, and of course, to get you guys in the holiday mood, this is one that I just finished a couple of days ago, saying I did see Santa coming, flying through the moon. Well, flying across the moon, obviously.
Yeah.
There's that, and one of my personal favorites. Who ate the Christmas cookies? The usual suspects. Yeah. So, like I said, this is on sale right now. It will be until 7 hours left. So, buy it now. Well, Daniel, thank you very much for coming
I'm happy for you. Thanks for having me on, Ian. I appreciate your time, man. Thanks for always being such a great supporter. Thank you so much.
Look, I do consider you one of my friends, and I want to make sure, like I said, that many of my friends that have Kickstarters, I want them to succeed. I want, I also want Eric to succeed. I want Enrique to succeed. I want everybody that I know to succeed.
It's very, very noble of you, man. We appreciate your time and your support.
Well, it's very important to me. It's very important to me. Anyway.
Appreciate it.
Well, folks, that's going to be it for us this week. Thank you very much, like I said, for joining us. Once again, I'm Ian Miller, and this has been the Turbo Threat Comics YouTube channel. Have a good night, folks.
Take care, brother. See you soon.